This video is brought to you by RogueDeckBuilder.com. Purchase a playmat today and help us make the move to our new studio. We have over 10 playmats to choose from. Visit RogueDeckBuilder.com. Hi there, it's Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Here's a little bit of a spoiler review. Today we finally have all of the legendary creatures from the different clans from Khans of Tarkir finally spoiled. I just want to talk about them and then go over a few of my favorite cards so far spoiled, what I think so far about the format, about the Khans of Tarkir, and possible decks you can actually build with these. So again, as time goes on, I'll actually be brewing with these cards more and more and see what we can come up with. The three colors does seem a little bit hard to do even with the amount of fixtures we have in standard. I think the shock lands are the perfect for these type of decks and they'll be gone. We do have fetch lands, but fetch lands can only fix one color, where shock lands a lot of times can fix two colors. And so you got to think about the fetch lands as evolving wilds that the lands do not come into play tapped. So anywho, one of the problems I had with Evolving Wilds is in Limited and in Sealed, a lot of times what you do is you go grab a color that you need, and then you end up actually drawing into that color, and you still need one of your other third colors. So we do have the temples, we do have a few other ways, but you can't have that guaranteed fixer with the fetch land shock lands, which you see in Modern. So anyway, let's just go over the legendary creatures. We'll go from left to right here. The first one I'll talk about is an Anafenza the Foremost. Now this is a cool card. When it attacks, you put a 1/1 counter on a target tap creature you control. Another target tap creature control. So this is going to go in a deck that I'm trying to think if there's any cards that actually want +1/+1 counters. I'm assuming there is in the format, but the best cards you can put this on is like you can't put on a Soldier Pantheon, but another early 1-drop or 2-drop. I'm thinking black. There's a lot of 2/1s. There's Tormented Hero. There's actually a new one that was just spoiled today out of black. That is very, very juicy, but you're gonna want to put this on an aggressive card, very early card, and then each turn it's like having a bigger curved creature. So again, you drop a 1-drop first turn, a 2-drop second turn, and this on the third turn. And the fourth turn you're actually swinging in with not only 4/4, but most likely like another 4/4 being either like the Fleecemane Lion, or just a bigger than a 3/2 if it is one of your 2/1 1-drops. So I'm thinking this guy is very aggressive. I don't know if Junk actually wants to be aggro. Again, we'll have to check and see what other cards are in the format. I know that green, black, and white do have very, very early drops. Again, Fleecemane Lion, Soldier of the Pantheon, you have Tormented Hero. I'm sure we'll see some juicy green cards that are undercosted. You know, even cards like Plukernos. So, oh, I know what this card actually, Chronicler of Heroes, the one that says if you control a creature with a +1/+1 counter, you get to draw a card. I think this is a nice little combination with that. But anyway, the other ability of this, if a creature card would be put in an opponent's graveyard from anywhere, exile instead. It's going to be your go-to card to get rid of any sort of graveyard strategy. I don't quite think this is Modern playable, but we'll see what it does in Standard. Like a 3 mana for a 4/4, that is Loxodon Smiter. I still think the Loxodon Smiter is a little more powerful than this. I think the upside of the Loxodon Smiter being discarded and put into play was a bit more relevant than these other two abilities will be. Maybe not. Maybe I'm under evaluating the +1/+1 counter, but we'll have to wait and see. Again, it's going to be very hard to get this guy on third turn, as you're going to be using temples, which come into play tapped. You're going to be using, or just the wedge lands that come into play tap, or you're going to be stuck on one of the lands you do not have, one of the mana you do not have to cast it. So you got to think of this more of a 4-drop than a 3-drop. Alright, so we'll go on to Narset, Enlightened Master. I have a hard time seeing this being played in Standard. It is a hexproof card, but 3/2, dies of Drowned in Sorrow, dies Anger of Gods, dies any sort of sweeper by that time. First strike hexproof whenever Narset Enlightened Master attacks, exile the top 4 cards of your library. Until the turn, you may cast a non-creature card exiled with Narset with this turn without paying their mana cost. So it's going to go in a deck that wants to abuse. I mean, this could get Omniscience out. I see this highly playable in any sort of EDH deck. EDH actually likes 3-colored cards, but 6 mana is very, very hard. By the time you have a 6 mana casting cost guy, there's better ways to do this. I mean, Chandra, you can exile the top card of your library and play it, but you do have to play its casting cost. And I just think that, don't we have a few other cards like Daxos gets it from your opponent, but I don't see Narset seeing much play in standard just because of the heavy 6 mana casting cost. And all you have to do is attack with it, but it's still vulnerable. A 3/2 for a striker to be chump blocked by any 4 toughness guy, any Plukranos, Arbor Colossus, etc., etc., etc. So EDH card, I don't see standard. Sidisi, Brood Tyrant. This one's probably my second favorite out of the bunch. Whenever Sidisi Brood Tyrant enters the battlefield or attacks, put the top 3 cards of your library in your graveyard. When one or more creature cards are put in your graveyard from your library, put a 2/2 black zombie creature token onto the battlefield. So it immediately enters the battlefield and hopefully can get you up to... Oh, it only gets... I swear, it only triggers once per instance, though. So can get you a 2/2. So you got to think of this card as the chance of, for 4 mana, getting a 3/3 and a 2/2. And then any other way that you put the top cards of your library, every time it attacks, you can get a 2/2 zombie creature token. So it kind of feels like Bramaz a little bit. Again, the 3 mana is going to be a little bit... This is a color combination, though, that typically can set up a 3-color combination in mana very easily. Black, green, and blue, as you have the control and the green to help fix. So they really complement each other. I mean, I guess you could say the same for junk, but in history, bug decks have been able to manipulate the mana or the top of their library a lot easier. So I think this guy could come out on turn 4 on time a lot easier than Anafenza can come out on turn 3. So liking this card, the flavor of this card is amazing. Again, people have been talking about how cool this card is in EDH. It could go into like a zombie tribal deck, I'm sure. And now you have actually like I played a zombie tribal deck, and what I used is Grim. And I know that there is a Jund zombie. I believe it's Jund. No, it's a Grixis zombie. And now we have the access to a bug zombie. So now you can play a 3-color zombie decks and get all those juicy zombies from Return to Ravnica, from the Golgari, and any other zombie that have been released in either green, blue, or black, green from the sets before. Anyway, now that we go on to Zergul Helm Smasher, this has been spoiled for quite a while. Haste 7/2 is really, really cool. It attacks each turn and has indestructible as long as it's your turn. The problem with that is it doesn't have indestructible on each other player's turn, where Magma Spray, Bile Blight are very, very huge, as well as anything... Bile Blight even on your turn kills it, as well as Drown in Sorrow. Whenever a creature dealt damage to Zergul Helm Smasher this turn dies, ++1 will counter on it, so it's got that kind of vampiric ability. This card is meh, so-so. I mean, the 7/2 haste is huge, but I have a hard time seeing this guy. He needed like trample or something to actually get through. He can be chump blocked all day. There's a lot of tokens in the format, and I'm just not a big fan of it. So anyway, let's go on to my favorite of the legendary creatures so far, and this one is going to be Surrak Dragonclaw. Now this guy's flash for 5 mana, 6/6. Surrak Dragonclaw can't be countered. Creature spells you control can't be countered. Other creatures you control have trample. This guy does it all. I mean, I've already liked UG Flash in the format. You have Prophet of Crufix that kind of works kind of nicely with this. But UG Flash with the Horizon Chimera and any other Flash cards that we have right now. We have Boon Satyr. I think this works perfectly in that deck. And I'm definitely thinking this is going to be the glue that holds together the Rug Flash. Like, this can be your finisher. A 6/6 is no joke for 5 mana. So you're going to use a lot of control, a lot of bounce, a lot of tempo, a lot of card draw. And just use Surrak as kind of your finisher. Or Horizon Chimera or Boon Satyr could be in there too. And you already have 12 creatures right there. I mean, Surrak probably be a 2 of in the deck. But Boon Satyrs, it already has Flash, but then Boon Satyrs, it cannot be countered if you have this guy out. And yeah, it just seems like a very solid card. Going to look forward to actually brewing with this dude. So let's go on to the Ascendancys. So I guess with this video, we'll just go over the Ascendancys, the Charms, and the Legendary Creatures. So this will be part 1. So Abzan Ascendancy. Whenever Abzan Ascendancy enters the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. And whenever a non-token creature you control dies, put a 1/1 white spirit creature token with flying on the battlefield. Very cool card. The only problem I have with all these Ascendancies is they're really hard to cast. We'll have to wait and see how hard that ends up being. And if they actually get enough value, because I mean, we've seen enchantments in the past that seem to be good, and then when you cast them, they don't really do much, or they don't get enough value. But this one gets some immediate value when it enters the battlefield. Put in +1/+1 counter on each creature you control. Again, we're starting to see a theme with the Abzan, and with any sort of tokens. This makes them bigger. You get to put 1/1 white spirit tokens every time a creature dies, so it's kind of got this. I wish it was in standard right now so I could abuse Immortal Servitude or some other shenanigans where I can just keep killing creatures and putting in 1/1 white spirit tokens. And these are legendary. You can throw out as many as you want. So after you've got some 1/1 white spirit tokens, you can throw out another one. But I probably prefer that it said that it just gave all creatures +1/+1 and be another kind of buff aura. As when you want to throw this guy down, I can see 4th turn or 5th turn maybe throwing this down, but you wouldn't want to throw this down on 3rd turn with only a couple creatures out, unless you had like 3/1 drops that you threw out on 1st and 2nd turn, and then you want to actually protect your aggro if they die. I mean, it kind of feels like the Necromancer that put in 2/2 zombies. So 1/1 Spirit is kind of comparable to a 2/2 zombie. So pretty cool card. We'll see if it works. I'm gonna have to check what this thing actually does here, the exact wording here. So here we have the Jeskai Ascendancy. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, creatures you control get +1/+1 until end of turn, and you get to untap them. And whenever you cast a non-creature spell, you may draw a card. If you do, discard a card. This one seems very underwhelming to me. Yeah, if you have, your opponent always has to play around it. If you have any sort of creature you can attack and then be on the defensive, even cards, any sort of cantrippy card, instant spell, makes all of your creatures be threats on the attack and on the defense. Or even on the offense, you can actually cast an instant, all of them get +1/+1 until end of turn. So, seems pretty good. The second one, this looting ability, I guess is okay. It keeps your hand full of threats. So yeah, I guess I could see this seeing some play. So far so good. Kind of cool that they're going an aggressive tempo route with the white, red, and blue strategy. I'm glad to see that instead of like a heavy control. So we'll go on to the Sultai Ascendancy. Being for upkeep, look at the top 2 cards of your library. Put any amount of them into your graveyard and the rest on top of your library in any order. This kind of feels like being your upkeep scry. Instead, though, you're scrying, you're putting them on the in the graveyard, which has a lot of synergy with the Sidisa Brood Tyrant, and I'm sure there'll be other graveyard type strategies. Remember, you still have Night Howler in the format. You still have an entire deck that did quite well in standard in the dredge type decks. And again, this just feeds them. We have commune with nature that can go grab an enchantment. And then you can throw this into play, and they can keep throwing more stuff into the graveyard. And if you want it on top, like it makes you hit all your land drops and throw the creatures in the graveyard, or vice versa, whichever is more pertinent at the time. So I'm not going to underestimate this. It's in the perfect colors for a graveyard type strategy. Again, we've already seen the black and green utilized. Satyr Wayfinder. We have Night Howlers. We have the snake that you can actually monstrous for less for each card in the graveyard. So I'm thinking that we can actually work around the Sultai Ascendancy. I'm sure this is such a Kevin card. I'm sure I'll brew around it. Let's go to Mardu Ascendancy. Mardu Ascendancy is whenever a non-token creature you control attacks, put a 1/1 red goblin creature token on the battlefield, sacrifice it, creatures you control get +0/+3 until end of turn. So the +0/+3 is actually a nice little defense against Anger of the Gods and Drown in Sorrow. But I don't know if you actually want to sacrifice this. I mean, again, it's not as good as the other secondary abilities of most of the other Ascendancies, but it does have upswing, so you have to evaluate into the card. So you have to take away, I mean, is the first part worth it? I think it is. Whenever non-token creature attacks, you can put a 1/1 red goblin token. Goes great in nice little aggressive strategy. Again, you're in aggro colors. You have a lot of 1-drops that are 2/1s. You have the Founder Street Denizen. You have the Goblin Rabble Master that benefits off of this. If you attack with Goblin Rabble Master, this will mean you put two red Goblin creature tokens, one from the Goblin Rabble Master and one from the Ascendancy, and then your Goblin Rabble Master will get at least +2/+0. So definitely, I don't know if this is quite going to be playable because in an aggro deck, again, it's going to be very hard to utilize. There might just be better things you can do for 3 or 4 mana, as again, it's going to be hard to get out on time. And so far, this one seems the most underwhelming out of all the Ascendancies. So let's go on to the Temur Ascendancy. Creature you control with haste. Whenever a creature with power 4 or greater enters the battlefield under your control, you may draw a card. This is the one I'm the most excited to brew around. I think it's the most powerful one. Haste is huge. We're losing Colonial Hydra. That sucks. Because of course I'd abuse the crap out of it with this. But there still is cards that do want haste. A lot of the souls can benefit off haste. Ideal would be a 4-drop, like Plukranos, that you can get the most value out of this. Plukranos would just be beautiful with this card. So turn 4, Temur Ascendancy, turn 3, Temur Ascendancy, turn 4, Plukranos. You're drawing a card and having a 5/5 haster. That is not bad. Also, you got to keep in mind that this gives all your guys haste, all your mana dorks haste as well. And so with a ramp type strategy, you can kind of go crazy with this Temur Ascendancy. And even though power 4 or greater won't trigger off a lot of your mana dorks, your other big guys that you do want to get out, like your Plukanos, like your Stormbreath Dragons, like anything else that I think will go in this deck, like your Surrak Dragonclaw, will get you another card to replace. So you can just tempo. Remember, one of the good things about Mono Blue Devotion is the ability for it to come back and draw a bunch of cards. And just drawing like one card later game, if your opponent is out of cards, you're out of cards, you have a Temur Ascendancy out, it's quite easy for you to always be a threat. Again, Surrak is always lingering around. A 6/6 now with Flash, Haste, cannot be countered, and drawing you a card is pretty relevant in the format. So far, I'm absolutely loving the Temur. I would give Temur the edge on both the legendary creature and the Ascendancy. So last but not least, let's go over the charms. So we had the Abzan charm. It's a little bit hard to read here. I'll read it for you. It says, choose one exile target creature with power 3 or greater. You draw 2 cards. You lose 2 life. So you have a kind of Pillar of Light on one end, a little bit better than a Pillar of Light. A Read the Bones. And this is instant speed, actually. You draw 2 cards and you lose 2 life. That is instant speed, mind you. So you can use this in a turn, which is pretty powerful because black, usually that's sorcery speed. So I definitely see this being played just for to be able to draw 2 cards. And then distributing 2/1/1 counters among 1 or 2 target creatures. Remember, Heroic is still in the format. Not too shabby. I'm sure there's some cards that will want +1/+1 counters that will... we are losing a lot of Return to Ravnica. See, this like kind of makes me sad that they didn't start the standard where you can use 3 blocks. Because I think that the Asman would work great with the cards from either of the guilds, like for Golgari especially. But even there's a lot of cards that want +1/+1 counters from a Return to Ravnica block, and this would have fit perfectly well. But I'm sure we have yet to see cards that actually want to utilize +1/+1 counters. I'm sure there's some from Theros that I'm forgetting about as well. So pretty cool charm. I'm really liking this one. Let's go on to the Jeskai charm. Choose one to put target creature on top of its owner's library. That's huge. Let me say that again. That is huge. For 3 mana, removal, yeah. Charm deals 4 damage to target opponent. Oh, joy. Another 4 damage spell for 3 mana. I was hoping that we'd get rid of this nonsense of doing too much damage to the face, because it's really just... Again, I guess Burn is still alive. You lose Boros Charm and War Leader's Helix, but this might actually fit into a 3-color Burn type deck. You are losing Ralzeric, though, but Red has plenty of Burn. I'm not sure what Blue-Red actually brings to the table, as you lose Turn and Burn and a few other cards that you would want in the Blue-Red. And creature can get +1/+1 to gain lifelink until a turn. All those are pretty relevant. The first 2 are very relevant, very powerful charm. Let's go on to the Sultai charm. With Jeskai charm also, I could see this actually seeing play in UWR, mid-range, or control in modern. I think they do want this in the deck, because being able to get rid of a target creature on top of its own library for 3 mana is not bad. 4 damage to opponents is not bad, and giving your creatures lifelink if it's like Geist of St. Traff, yeah, I could see this as a 1 of or 2 of, or maybe sideboard playable. We'll have to wait and see if it actually shakes stuff up. Let's go to the Sultai charm. Choose one, destroy target monocolored creature, destroy target artifact or enchantment, or draw 2 cards and discard a card. Pretty powerful charm again because it does everything. It destroys monocolored creature, artifact, or enchantment. So feels a lot like a Putrefy with a little bit of a downturn, but we are losing a lot of the monocolored creatures that you wanted to kill, like Desecration Demon, but this still kills Master of Waves. It still kills Master of the Feasts, and a lot of the Theros set was monocolored. Can't hit Soldier of the Pantheon, of course, but you can hit basically most of the threats from the Theros block. Stormbreath Dragon is a target, and it's instant speed again. And Artifact or Enchantment, again, enchantment is huge because we just came out of an enchantment block, and all the Ascendancys just make enchantments that much better. And being able to draw 2 cards and discard cards, what's so good about both the Abzan charm and the Sultai charm is they can cantrip themselves. If you need cards, if the charm's just burning in your hand, you have no target, you can still get advantage out of it. So very, very cool. Liking the Sultai charm, it seems the most sort of more working for universal here. I mean, you can do so many things with it. So let's go into the Mardu charm. Mardu charm says deal 4 damage to target creature for 3 mana. Not many creatures that can survive that. Put 2 1/1 white warrior creature tokens on the battlefield. They gain first strike until end of turn. That's instant speed again, so you can throw those onto the battlefield with instant speed and first strike down something. And target opponent reveals his or her hand. He would choose a non-creature, non-land card from it. That player discards that card. Little eye casted for that third ability, but again, it's very relevant. All the 3 modes: destroying a creature with 4 or greater, and putting in. If you need creatures, you got creatures. Again, instant speed creatures. You have removal, and you can have hand disruption if you're worried about any sort of sweeper in your opponent's hand. It's still going to come out before they have their sweeper. So last but not least, we go on a Temur charm. Target creature controller gets +1/+1 until end of turn. That creature fights. That's great in Temur. Counter target spell unless the controller pays 3. That is perfect. Perfect in a tempo deck. And creatures with power 3 or less can't block this turn. Again, that is a very relevant third mode. So I don't know which of the charm. I think the Abzan charm is my favorite, or probably Sultai charm or Abzan charm. But Temur is a close third. They're all very, very good. Again, I'm going to go with Mardu being the weakest. So out of all the 3, if I had to rank just based upon the charms, the Ascendancys, and the legendary creature, I'm going to give the nod to the best being Temur. Followed by Sultai, followed by Abzan, Jeskai, and then Mardu being the least, because Mardu's legendary and enchantment are pretty weak, but the charm is fine. The charms are all really, really relevant. I think that they're going to all see a lot of play in Standard, and I think that they're going to be the kind of the glue that actually makes the 3-color decks worth it to play, as we did come out of a heavy monocolored block set that had some very powerful cards in it. Devotion being very, very wanting, I guess, of monocolored or at least 2-color decks. I don't think you can really plan on going Devotion with 3-color decks. You don't get enough value out of a lot of cards like Grey Merchant and Master of Waves. So we'll have to wait and see if the entire set gets spoiled here in a couple of days. We get to see the ins and outs that actually tie together the set, and we'll be able to predict what decks we'll see play in Standard and what decks are going to go extinct because of these cards that are coming out. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed this spoiler review. I apologize for just how fast I put it together. Again, I just wanted to review the Ascendancys, the charms, and the legendary creatures from the 5 different guilds or clans, whatever you want to call them. Anyway, this has been Kevin with RogueDeckBuilder.com. Thanks for watching.